This is the Second Amendment, and this is The Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're just a little less delayed than we were last week after the IU game and IU post-game show. So we're getting started. We have 2 hours of stuff to talk about that we'll try to fit into an hour and a half. But, hey, always love a challenge. Want to get into a new bill that is being floated around here in Indiana. And it's not time to actually file bills in the Indiana General Assembly for the 2024 session quite yet. But folks who are in the General Assembly, senators and representatives, are preparing their bills in order to file those when the time comes up. And the legislative session starts always with what's called Organization Day, where they look at committee memberships and do some other things just completely consistent with what the name says. And not long after that, then senators and representatives can start filing bills. One bill we know is going to be filed was talked about just yesterday on Fox 59. And in fact, Fox 59 called me up and wanted to talk to me about it as well. And it's a bill that we always knew was coming, because what it would do is it would allow the ordinance that was already passed here in Marion County in Indianapolis on gun control. It would allow that ordinance to go into effect. So let's back up. Let's talk about what ordinance we're talking about, and then why does state law need to be changed in order for an Indianapolis ordinance to go into effect? Because if you're hearing these issues for the first time, that might not make a lot of sense to you. Well, initially, what the ordinance is, it's an ordinance passed by the Indianapolis Marion County City County Council on gun control. And what it says is that in Marion County, they're banning so-called assault weapons. So semi-automatic rifles with detachable magazines and any other firearm that falls within their very broad and ambiguous definition of whatever the hell they say is an assault weapon. Also, they're saying they're going to raise the age to purchase any firearm in Marion County to 21. Well, how's that work now? Well, you already have to be 21 to buy a handgun in a gun store. That's under federal law. So there's nothing Indiana or Marion County or the city of Indianapolis can do to change that. But under federal law, you already have to be 21 to buy a handgun, but you can be 18 and buy a rifle or a shotgun. And this Marion County ordinance would change that to say, no, to even buy a rifle or a shotgun, you have to be 21. It would also repeal constitutional carry or permitless carry in Marion County. So in 2021, effective July 1st, I was a big part of this. You heard me talk about this here on the Gun Guy Show a lot. You heard me talk about it for damn near 10 years, because that's how long we've been fighting for it. We finally got permitless carry passed for the state of Indiana, including, obviously, Marion County. Well, under this ordinance, they will roll back constitutional carry and say, oh no, even if you're a law-abiding citizen who can lawfully possess a firearm, you have to have a license issued by the Indiana State Police to carry a handgun in Marion County. And then what the ordinance also does is it says that they're banning all concealed carry of firearms completely in Marion County. And that none of that ever made sense to me when I read the ordinance. And I went down, I testified against it in the committee hearing down at the City County Council. And the ordinance never made any sense to me, because, like, okay, hold on. It says to carry a handgun at all, you have to have a license. All right. So they're repealing constitutional carry, and then they're doing away with all concealed carry of firearms. So I guess what that would mean is, if anybody's thinking this through, you can carry a handgun with a license, but it has to be openly carried. So is that what Joe Hogs it? Because this was all his proposal that the City County Council adopted through the form of an ordinance. Is that what they want? They want, okay, there are 1 million people in the state of Indiana that have a handgun license. Probably more than that now. That was the number last year. And even with permitless carry, a lot of people are still applying for their license for a lot of different reasons. So 1 million people have a handgun license. I got to believe a big chunk of those are right here in Marion County where I am now. So, all right, so we got a whole bunch of people, including me, for instance, sitting here in Marion County. I've got a handgun license. I'm carrying a handgun. So they want me to not conceal my gun. They want me walking around downtown Indianapolis with my gun openly carried. I mean, I have no problem with open carry. It's legal in Indiana now under constitutional carry, or with a handgun license, as it's been for decades, for generations. If you choose to open carry, so be it. I personally prefer to conceal carry. I don't think people need to know I'm carrying a gun. So I guess Joe Hogsett and the City County Council would prefer that I only open carry my gun with an Indiana handgun license. But it says also right there in the ordinance, in addition to those 4 provisions, it also says that none of this can take effect until the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act, that's a state statute, until the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act is repealed or amended so as to allow that ordinance to go into effect. Why do they have to have that provision in this statute? Well, because the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act, that's been on the books since 2011, says that local governments, what they call political subdivisions, so you have the state of Indiana and then it's divided up into all these other units of local governments. You have counties and cities and towns and townships and airport authorities and any number of other governmental units that subdivide the state. None of those local governments, those local political governmental units, can regulate firearms, absent certain very limited exceptions. Like, for instance, the Colts came in and said, well, we don't really want guns at Colts games. So there's an exception to say if a private organizer or promoter of an event leases property from a local government, like the city of Indianapolis, where they lease now Lucas Oil Stadium. At the time, it was the RCA Dome. If they lease property from a local government, that private organizer or promoter of an event can ban firearms there. Okay. But absent these very limited exceptions like that one, and another one, just give you another example, local governments can forbid, ban, prohibit firearms in buildings that contain a courtroom. Okay. But outside of these very limited exceptions, local governments simply can't regulate firearms, including the possession and carrying of firearms, including commerce in, which involves the sale of or buying of firearms or ammunition or firearms accessories. So all these provisions in this ordinance that have already been passed by the City County Council, the reason they had to put the provision in it that says these can't take effect unless and until the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act is repealed or amended so as to allow it to go into effect, is because all the things the city of Indianapolis wants to do, they can't do. And if that would go into effect today, I would be the first lawyer to go sue them. And why would I do that? Well, because the act also says that if they pass a local regulation that violates the act, they can be sued, and the plaintiff can collect, as liquidated damages, we call them, 3 times their attorney's fees plus their attorney's fees. So that's 4x your attorney's fees. You go litigate that for a few months or years or whatever it is, you run up $100,000 in legal fees, you can collect $400,000 against that political subdivision. So it's got teeth. So they couldn't allow this thing to go into effect at the time it was passed, and that's why they have this provision in there that says, oh no, we have to wait for the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act that forbids the whole thing, that prohibits the whole thing, makes the whole thing illegal to be amended or repealed. Well, what did we see floated around by a state senator from Indianapolis representing District 30, actually the north side of Indianapolis? It's a state senator named Fadi Kadura. If you want to look that up, it's Qadura. two D's, Quaddoura. And he was touting this bill, and apparently he contacted Fox 59 to promote this thing, or I don't know, someone did. And Fox 59 called me and said, all right, we're going to go talk to Senator Fedora about this statute, and we'd like to come talk to you about it as well. Okay, I did that. What did I have to say about this bill? What are the legal issues involved? What would it allow local governments to do, notwithstanding the current state of the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act? What arguments are being made in favor of this thing? And again, what's my response? That's what we'll get into when we come back. Thanks for your patience on another late-starting Gun Guy Show. We're glad you're with us. We'll be right back after this break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
I alphabetized my soundboard. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. F?
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, sir.
I have to go to S for Sopranos. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think you got it.
It's so clean now. It's fantastic. Yeah, we have clearly run out of things to talk about. There's nothing else going on in the world.
It's a great world, everything's so.
This show is stupid.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Pinnacle Firearms, located in Carmel at 598 West Carmel Drive, just off of Clark Street, just on Clark Street, just off of Carmel Drive. It's a one-stop shop for all your firearms-related needs, whether it's firearms, ammunition, or accessories, including an on-staff, on-location gunsmith to handle all your gunsmithing needs, and they do expert refinishing as well, whether that's rebluing, refinishing, or I had a beautiful urban camo Cerakote job done there on my shotgun, which I posted on social media. Very, very proud of that. Anything you need regarding your firearms, accessories, or ammunition, stop by and see my friends at 598 West Carmel Drive. That's Pinnacle Firearms, or check them out at pinnacle-firearms.com. Pinnacle Firearms, located in Carmel.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Around here, it's a little less about presents and a little more about presents. To celebrate, to share, and to give thanks. To be there. And right now, you can be there in a Hubler quality pre-owned vehicle. Every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. Shop any of Hubler's 12 locations or visit drivehubler.com and choose from over 1,000 vehicles. Chevy, Ford, GMC, Buick, Nissan, Acura, Mazda, Honda, and many more. Plus, every Hubler Q-certified vehicle includes a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report. You can be there for years to come because Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. So what drives Indiana? DriveHubler.com. For over 1,000 vehicles, visit any of our 12 locations. May your season be full of presents. Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Rizumkizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Denny Smith here. The Sundown Gardens and Miss M's Home and Garden Holiday Open House is this Saturday and Sunday. Both locations will have samples, door prizes, giveaways, and holiday decor. And while you're there, take advantage of their Holiday Open House sale. The Holiday Open House this Saturday and Sunday, Sundown Gardens at 186th Street and Spring Mill Road in Westfield, sundown.gardens.com. Miss M's Home and Garden on State Road 135 in Bargersville, just south of Whiteland Road, MissM'sHomeandGarden.com.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month. But you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
I'd rather be folding laundry.
This is gonna be fun.
Said no one ever. Also, no one enjoys wasting time in traffic. That's why we love saving you time. Matt Baird Traffic.
Backups are already starting.
On 93 WIBC. Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. Talking about this bill. Doesn't have a number yet because the session hasn't officially started. But a lot of the legislators are already working on their bills. They've already submitted them to what we call legislative services. Or LSA that put them in the form they need to be in to be filed as proposed legislation or bills. And I mean, I'm working on a couple of bills with legislators right now to improve gun rights in Indiana. And those will be filed here when the time comes around to actually file bills before the session really starts in earnest. After some organization, some other things get done, the session really starts in January. But this bill proposed by Senator Fadi Kadura would say local governments, contrary to the current Firearms Preemption Act, actually can legislate or pass ordinances, pass regulations that affect your gun rights, that limit possession, sale, any number of other facets of gun possession, ownership, commerce, etc., that are all currently especially forbidden by the Preemption Act. And let's go back. So how long have we had this? What's the Preemption Act all about? Well, it's been on the books since 2011. And it was really championed by Senator Jim Toms, a senator who got involved in the General Assembly not too long before then. In fact, that may have been his first term as a state senator. And he's down from southwestern Indiana, the Poseyville area. And I've worked with Jim on a number of different bills as well. And Jim noticed that whether it's Indiana or any other state, when local governments are allowed to regulate gun rights, regulate firearms, what we see over and over is this patchwork of inconsistent regulation from town to town, city to city, county to county, that create a real quandary, create a lot of confusion for the Indiana gun owner. For instance, Illinois, I mean, they've passed sort of a weak version of preemption in Illinois, but for forever, Illinois had this system where you go into a particular town or village, as some of them are called, and suddenly the gun you're carrying is illegal. Or the knife you're carrying, the blade's half an inch too long. Because they had regulations on knives as well, but particular to firearms. You know, where you can and can't carry. I mean, in some towns it's illegal to carry in a city park. And in other towns it's totally legal. Well, how do you keep track of all that? And I remember listening to Senator Toms when he was proposing the Preemption Act originally in the 2011 session. And he said that he and his family wanted to take a driving tour of the whole state of Indiana and just spend a number of days and weeks in the summertime, just going from town to town, city to city. But he's a big gun guy. He carries a gun everywhere he can legally carry a gun. And so he decided he wanted to sit down and figure out what the rules were across all of Indiana. Things like, can you have a gun in a library? Can you have a gun in the city park, like I mentioned? Can you have a gun in government buildings that don't have courtrooms in them? And what he figured out very rapidly is you'd have to spend more time than you would ever spend on your trip itself researching to figure out what all the different laws were across the state of Indiana. And that's totally the way it is in some other states, Illinois included. I said, this doesn't make any sense. We've got plenty of laws at the state and federal level that regulate our gun rights. And if there's a need for a gun law, a gun restriction, a restriction on Second Amendment rights, assuming it passes constitutional muster, which is a whole other question we'll get into, then if that's important enough, then that could be passed to the state or federal level. If it passes to the state level, it's good for the whole state, not just a particular county or town. And so there was a big debate, and it wasn't easily passed. And the Indiana Association of Cities and Towns, what we call IARC, they came in and they were fighting against it. When it looked clear that it was going to pass in some form, they were arguing for more exceptions. But at the end of the day, it passed, and it prevented exactly what Senator Kadura here from Indianapolis is proposing now happens, which is that local municipalities can, in fact, pass their own gun control. Completely inconsistent with the whole reason we have the act. But what specifically would his bill allow, because it's not quite identical to what the Marion County ordinance says, that would go into effect in Marion County if the Preemption Act is amended. What exactly would it allow, and what would that mean in terms of next steps from there, including litigation that unquestionably I would be involved in. I would be leading the charge on, no question about. So we'll get into all of those issues, and we'll start to take your calls here in the second hour, 317-239-9393. We're coming up on the end of hour number one, but we'll be back in just a bit. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
You know, one of the things people worry about when selling their home is, maybe they're worried that they're settling for less money with a lowball instant offer. I got to tell you, it's not the case with Mark Dietl. Take Ken and Teresa from Indianapolis. Here's what they had to say. A job transfer had us scrambling to sell our home. We were worried we were selling at the wrong time in a bad market. That wasn't the case for us with Mark Dietl. We got a full price offer in only 1 week with no inspection required.
Mark Dietl is the only real estate expert that we trust and recommend with the sale of our homes. Mark Dietl guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Call Mark Dietl today, 317-755-4232, or go to markdietl.com. Mark, D-I-E-T-E-L, markdietl.com. Tell him Hammer and Nigel sent you.
Everyone's talking about Galaxy Concrete Coatings and their transformation, like your neighbor Brett.
We did Galaxy for the sidewalks and also the porch. The porch had a few pits. Galaxy said that was no problem.
Home or business, Galaxy Concrete Coatings got you covered.
Obviously with the front sidewalk and step, so we didn't worry about any kind of slipping. You're concerned about that after rain. And then when it did dry, it didn't spot, it didn't stain. It was just like it had been done yesterday.
Lots of styles to choose from. 4 times stronger than epoxy and a 15-year warranty.
One thing that my wife commented on was how easy the Galaxy coating swept versus just the bare concrete.
Click on GalaxyConcreteCoatings.com now. That's Galaxy Concrete Coatings. And remember to like us on Facebook. Galaxy Concrete Coatings. We're out of this world.
We moved here recently. I didn't even think twice about calling anyone else but Galaxy to come do this house.
If I could be you.
And you could be me?
For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way.
To get inside each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
AE Ammo is Greenwood's ammunition superstore. The largest variety in training, hunting, and self-defense ammo with the best prices locally guaranteed. Factory new 9mm FMJ ammo starting at $12 per 50-round box. Factory new 50-round boxes, $380 from $14.99 and 45 ACP from $18.99. And with the AE Ammo Customer Rewards Program, start earning points today towards money back to use on future purchases. Shop in-store or online at aeammo.com.
Broadcasting from the Peterman Brothers Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
The Israeli-Hamas war intensifies. I'm Deborah Valentine, Fox News. Israeli Defense Forces have been exchanging gunfire with Hamas in Gaza as well as Hezbollah along the Lebanese border. All this happening as they're also trying to find hostages taken when Hamas attacked Israel October 7th. Fox's Alex Hogan is in Israel with an update.
The IDF says it struck multiple Hezbollah sites across the border. The country's defense minister also traveled to this part of the country, reiterating a statement that we have heard before, warning Hezbollah that if it strikes, Israel will be ready. Meanwhile, this video released by the IDF saying that it targeted Hamas launch posts, weapons warehouses, and centers there in Gaza. Israeli soldiers are expanding their ground operations, still searching around the Al-Shifa hospital, where they say that they will now help with evacuation. Soldiers are also tracking down those tunnels in an effort to dismantle Hamas and also to find those hostages.
President Biden's Middle East advisor, Brett McGurk, has told leaders from several countries in the region that the release of hostages held by Hamas would mean a surge in the delivery of humanitarian aid for Gaza. Thousands of marchers walked for days from Tel Aviv and finally reached Jerusalem today. They're calling for the Israeli government to do all it can to get hostages held by Hamas released. The families have called upon the war cabinet to consider a ceasefire deal or a prisoner exchange to free the hostages. Hamas has offered to release all the hostages in exchange for some 6,000 Palestinian prisoners in Israel, but the cabinet has rejected that proposal. Russia's carried out a major drone attack on Ukraine, causing power outages with strikes aimed at infrastructure. America is listening to Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
5 inches of rain by tomorrow.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com. Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Another officer-involved shooting in the Circle City. I'm Wes Woodward, and here's what's trending this hour. DeMarcus Whitley was wanted for gun theft in the Broad Ripple area of Indianapolis. Chris Davis reports that when cops caught up to him Friday evening, he and his passenger both bailed from the car while it was still moving.
That was near 38th Street on the north side of Indianapolis. Police say both Whitley and his passenger jumped a fence, and the passenger pulled a gun. That's when he ended up shot. The passenger died at the hospital. Whitley ended up in cuffs. Chris Davis, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
Police are investigating after 2 officers were hurt in a crash early Saturday morning. Sasha Nixon reports.
Law enforcement officials were on North Shadeland Avenue for a firearms investigation. There, they say a suspect intentionally crashed into multiple police cars. 2 officers were hurt, and one of the 2 went to the hospital in stable condition. Police have arrested their suspect. Sasha Nixon, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
For the first time in decades, the Children's Museum of Indianapolis is hosting a brand new winter event. Sasha Nixon reports that you can see it for yourself starting this weekend.
Winter Fair will open to the public Saturday. Stephanie Edelman, exhibit developer at the Children's Museum, says it is replacing the previous annual tradition.
Jolly Days, which was our old seasonal holiday exhibit, had been running for a very, very long time, over 20 years, and we just felt like we were ready for a refresh, some new fun activities.
Get tickets at childrensmuseum.org. Sasha Nixon, 93, WIBC Mobile News.
On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. And now here's the forecast from the American Standard Heating Weather Center.
Tonight, clear skies remain in place, our low temperatures dropping to the freezing mark. And then for the day on Sunday, mostly sunny skies, high temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. On Wish TV, Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
A diagnosis of Alzheimer's can make it a struggle to communicate with loved ones. This is Tina McIntosh, president of Joy's House and co-host of the Caregiver Crossing radio program. In a moment, I've got a tip which often helps that will be music to your ears. Don't go away.
At Cardon Senior Living Communities, you'll find our teams share a commitment to enhancing the lifestyle and well-being of the people we serve every day at every stage of life.
A growing number of studies show the power of music's role in those living with Alzheimer's. The next time a loved one seems to be tuned out, gently place headphones on them or simply turn on one of their favorite songs. Watch their eyes light up, and don't be surprised if they sing along or start chatting about the tune. More tips like this are available anytime at caregivercrossingradio.org. With new weekly content created by Joy's House and distributed in partnership with Network Indiana, we're an on-air and online support group for Hoosier family caregivers. Hear conversations with experts, access a library of online education, and more at caregivercrossingradio.org.
Give family a call for your family maintenance plan, 317-577-8077. Maintenance is crucial.
Family Heating and Air is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
There are screening tests to catch cancer early. Visit cancer.org/getscreened.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for hour number 2 of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. So we're talking about this proposed statute that would amend the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act so as to allow local governments to regulate firearms. And it was doing so in a particular way. And right before the break at the top of the hour, I went through why we have the Preemption Act to begin with. That's because we have plenty of laws that regulate gun ownership, gun sales, gun possession, any number of other aspects of guns and ammunition. We have plenty of those laws at the state and federal level. And what we don't want, and the Indiana General Assembly clearly agreed all the way back in 2011 that we don't want, is this bizarre system of every county and town and city and township and every other local unit of government being able to institute its own rules on carrying guns, especially when this is an activity that's protected by the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. And, by the way, people tend to forget, Article 1, Section 32 of the Indiana Constitution says very clearly, I love Article 1, Section 32. Love talking about it. And I always say the same thing. It's elegant in its simplicity. Because all it says is the people shall have the right to bear arms for the defense of themselves and the state. That's it. The people shall have the right to bear arms for the defense of themselves and the state. So if I've got the right to bear arms, and that's guaranteed me by the Indiana Constitution, we know what the Second Amendment says, about the right to keep and bear arms, then how is it that every little local unit of government can start passing its own laws that restrict those very rights? But that's exactly what Senator Fadi Kadura of Indianapolis, District 30, which is the north side of Indianapolis, wants to allow local governments to do, including the city of Indianapolis, so they can actually put into effect the ordinance that I was talking about before the break that they've already passed. So let's look at all of this. Let's see how this would go. And I mentioned the fact that I would be first in line among lawyers to file a lawsuit to challenge this. Well, why would I do that and on what basis? Well, first of all, let's look at what's in the Indianapolis proposal. It says they're going to forbid all concealed carry of firearms in Marion County. Well, that's interesting because apparently nobody at the mayor's office, including all the lawyers he has on his staff, and nobody at the city council, including all the lawyers they have on their staff, no one's actually read what the Supreme Court said on that exact issue. Because it was just last summer that the Supreme Court of the United States, and you've heard me talk about this case right here on the Gun Guy Show, in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, found that the law in New York, which limited the concealed carry of handguns to only certain people that local officials determined had a sufficient need to carry a handgun, based on some level of threat that was actively existing as to that person at the time, that system that said, well, some law-abiding citizens can carry a handgun in public and some cannot, and that's determined based on their level of need, that selective process whereby some people can carry a handgun and some can't, that was unconstitutional. And the quote out of that case was, this takes a constitutional right and turns it into a government-granted privilege. And that was unconstitutional under the Second Amendment. So in the heels of that decision, which is barely over a year old, the geniuses in the Marion City County Council have decided, oh no, we'll just ban everybody from concealed carrying. Does that make any sense to you? I mean, what I've said more than once, were all the lawyers on the mayor's staff, were they absent the day they taught law in law school? That's the only way I can explain that. Well, but what else? They're also going to ban so-called assault weapons. Well, what has the Supreme Court also said? 2008, the Heller decision. D.C. versus Heller, what did they say? They say that, yes, the Second Amendment confers an individual right to bear arms, and those arms protected are those firearms commonly used for lawful purposes by U.S. citizens. That's the test. Commonly used for lawful purposes by U.S. citizens. What's the most commonly owned rifle in America today? I mean, this is not a hard fact to find. Anybody with a computer who knows how to spell Google can figure this out. The most commonly owned rifle in America is the AR-15. That would fall squarely within the Indianapolis City County Council's definition of a quote-unquote assault weapon. Yet they're going to ban them in Marion County? How do you figure? When those arms commonly used for lawful purposes are protected by the Second Amendment. People say, oh, well, there was an assault weapon ban guy from 2004 to 2004. And that wasn't overturned. Guess when the Heller decision came out that defined what arms are protected? 2008. So a so-called assault weapon ban at the federal level has not been challenged under law as it exists today, particularly since the Heller decision in 2008. It's a different world out there today, folks. And that's why every time President Biden gets in front of a microphone and starts talking about an assault weapon ban, you know, part of me says, oh, man, surely they're not going to be stupid enough to pass this. There's another big part of me that says, bring it on. I'll file that lawsuit too. Because you're not going to win it. The government is not going to win that lawsuit. But none of the people in Marion County, or apparently anyone on Senator Kadura's staff who wants to amend the firearms preemption law so as to allow this to go into effect, has read any of those decisions or paying enough attention to what the law actually is, or they don't care. And see, that's another reason why we have the Preemption Act. Because you know what? I think there's a very good chance. I never want to ascribe too much intelligence to politicians, because every time I do that, I'm disappointed. except for those I know personally and I know are very, very smart. Generally speaking, I think there's a very good chance that people down in Mayor Hogsett's office, or even on Senator Kadura's staff, I don't know, who know these things are unconstitutional. But at the local level, you know what they want to do? They want to stand up and they want to say, look what I'm doing to help address gun violence. They love that term, gun violence. They never talk about fist violence or knife violence. But okay, look what I'm doing to address gun violence. I'm being tough on gun violence. So I'm passing this thing. And they want to pander to the voting base and gain votes. And they don't care that the proposal that they're pushing, or even that they enact, actually violates the Constitution because it's unconstitutional, because it violates the Bill of Rights, because it violates the Second Amendment in particular. They don't care because just as soon as people run down to the ballot box and cast a vote in their favor because they like the fact that they're being tough on gun violence, quote unquote, whatever happens after that is inconsequential. And as long as Mayor Hogsett can stand up and say, look what I'm doing to combat gun violence. And look, I was there at the committee hearing. And it was I believe it was called the Public Safety Committee of the Marion County City County Council. And when Hogsett came in, man, he made a big flamboyant entrance and he gave his speech and he said, I'm not backing down on it. He was wagging his finger. And you should have seen the people there to support this thing. The people stood up and applauded. It was like he was a rock star. That's what he's after. He doesn't care that it's unconstitutional. He doesn't care if it gets overturned in the courts later on. He doesn't care if it's inconsistent with the Preemption Act. He doesn't care, I don't believe, if this proposal by Senator Fedora falls flat on its face, which it will. I said on Fox 59 last night, it's DOA. It's dead on arrival. They don't care. You know why they'll say they don't care? Well, look at that evil General Assembly in Indiana. They didn't pass what was just common sense gun control. They didn't allow us to go forward and do what we needed to do. Completely ignoring the real issue, which is it's bad policy to have this inconsistent patchwork of regulation from city to city, county to county. And because the laws exist, any law that is proposed or passed has to be consistent with the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Indiana. But they don't care if they can gain political victory by saying, well, look what we're trying to do, and the evil General Assembly just won't allow us to do it. Well, there you go. They've accomplished their mission. But let's talk more about why this idiotic proposal to push unconstitutional gun control measures in Marion County, and it's not limited to Marion County. If any others, would Bloomington follow suit? Oh, hell yes. Fort Wayne and Gary and Hammond, absolutely, that you know and I know they would. So this isn't a Marion County issue because Senator Kadura's bill would allow this to happen in any other county, city, town, whatever local government unit we're talking about. But let's talk more about why this is a completely idiotic proposal that deserves to be DOA in the General Assembly. When we come back, we'll start taking your calls as well. I invited that before the break, but we'll start going to the phone lines, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. By the way, if you care to watch us on YouTube, that's available. I always say I'm not a lot to look at, but if you want to go to YouTube, you can find us. Just search for 93 WIBC. And you can actually see the YouTube video feed as well. Right now, we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
When I was a boy, I used to have an affinity for professional wrestling. I was always a fan of the bad guy managers, and I used to tell my dad, I said, someday I will make them love to hate me. And I feel like at 39 years old, as I near my 40th birthday, I have achieved my life's ambition as I have made them love to hate me.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular classes are Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. Our next one is coming up Saturday, January 6th. It's going to be at Indy Arms from 9 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. This is 5 hours of the most important legal information that you need as an Indiana gun owner. A detailed discussion of the justified and lawful use of force in self-defense, how to avoid commonly prosecuted crimes like intimidation with a deadly weapon or criminal recklessness with a deadly weapon, and many, many more. We can talk about all those issues and a whole heck of a lot more critical information for the Indiana gun owner. It's just $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. We'd love to see you there, and you can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Around here, it's a little less about presents and a little more about presents. To celebrate, to share, and to give thanks. To be there. And right now, you can be there in a Hubler quality pre-owned vehicle. Every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. Shop any of Hubler's 12 locations or visit drivehubler.com and choose from over 1,000 vehicles. Chevy, Ford, GMC, Buick, Nissan, Acura, Mazda, Honda, and many more. Plus, every Hubler Q-certified vehicle includes a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report. You can be there for years to come because Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. So what drives Indiana? DriveHubler.com. For over 1,000 vehicles, visit any of our 12 locations. May your season be full of presents. Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Indiana Pathways for Aging helps Hoosier Medicaid members age 60 and over get support at no additional cost to live life their way.
Mom's Parkinson's is progressing, and Pathways provides in-home support so she can be with family every day.
Pathways coordinates Medicaid and Medicare services. I'm getting help with meals, personal care, and transportation.
One day, I might choose a nursing home, but today, I have options with Pathways.
The program begins in summer of 2024. Call 87-PATHWAY-4 or visit in.gov/pathways.
Hey, it's JMV, and the Sundown Gardens and Miss M's Home and Garden Holiday Open House is this Saturday and Sunday. Both locations will have samples, door prizes, giveaways, and holiday decor. While you're there, take advantage of their Holiday Open House sale. The Holiday Open House this Saturday and Sunday. Sundown Gardens at 186th and Spring Mill Road in Westfield. SundownGardens.com. Miss M's Home and Garden on State Road 135 in Bargersville, just south of Whiteland Road. Miss M's Home and Garden.com.
Life is all about enjoying the little moments. Don't miss out on them because of unexpected heart issues. At Community Health Network, you receive heart care you can trust. From simple screenings to life-saving diagnostic and interventional cardiology services, we offer it all, so you can get back to the moments that matter. Learn more about our services at ecommunity.com/heart. Community Health Network. Exceptional care simply delivered.
In Indiana, basketball is a family thing. That's why we are ramped up to have Lucas Oil Family Night return to Gamebridge Fieldhouse this season.
Got family in Kokomo. That might have been from Howard County.
Enjoy a game night full of family-friendly experiences and high-octane Pacers action.
Pull-up three from Matherin is perfect.
The next Lucas Oil Family Night with your Pacers is Sunday at 5 against the Orlando Magic. Family night tickets include a Pacers hat, hot dogs, chips, and a soft drink. Get your tickets at Pacers.com/family. Pacers Magic, Sunday at 5.
With the holidays upon us, the increase in traveling, shopping, and connecting online also heightens the need to protect your identity and finances with LifeLock. Identity thieves see this time of year as an opportunity to drain your accounts, open new loans in your name, and damage your financial future. LifeLock detects and alerts you to threats you might miss on your own. Don't let the busy holiday season catch you off guard. Save up to 25% off your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com.
Any heating and air conditioning problem you've got, we can take care of you. 317-577-8077.
Family Heating and Air is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
When you're high, you feel different. But if you feel different, you drive different. So don't drive high. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And I'll tell you what, we've had a couple of people call in. In fact, Brad's been holding for quite some time. Let's go to the phone lines. Brad, welcome to The Gun Guy Show.
Hello, sir. I just had a quick question. I've got major depressive disorder, so obviously I can't purchase a firearm, but I've invested in some air guns, and my granddaughter's really getting into it. I guess my question is, can I legally own air rifles?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I mean, you have a disability rating from the VA?
Yes.
Okay, and this got much worse under Obama, and Biden has continued this to some degree. But for a while, if folks got a disability rating from the VA, then they were reported in as having been adjudicated, and I hate this language, but it's out of the federal statute, as mentally defective, quote unquote, which is horribly offensive language, but that's the language of the statute. So a lot of vets started losing their gun rights. It's an open question, Brad, and we don't want to take the time to talk about it on air, but there's a possibility that you're not actually precluded from owning a firearm itself, but that depends on exactly the process by which you got that disability rating, and it's a little more complex than that. It, to some degree, it depends on what got reported in to what's called NICS, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. But in the meantime, yeah, there's not a prohibition on owning an air gun, and that wouldn't be illegal for you to do at all. Let's go back to the phone lines, and Dave is called in. Dave, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Hey, thanks for taking my question, Guy.
Sure.
So I know years ago we had a law passed that prohibited us from hunting with a firearm within 1,000 yards of school property. My question is, a church that does Sunday school, is this defined as school property? I've got a patch woods that's about 900 feet from a church property that does have Sunday school on Sundays. Want to make sure that we're legal there to be able to hunt with a firearm in that patch woods.
Yeah, there's a couple things, Dave, to talk about, and I go through this all in detail in my gun law class that I'm always pitching here on the show. But you got the federal statute that talks about no guns in a school zone, and school zone is what you're talking about. Well, that's school property, which is public or parochial, K through 12, and anywhere within 1,000 feet of that school property. That's the federal statute. And there's a big exception for that, though, one of which is if you're licensed by the state in which the school is located to carry your gun. So if it's a handgun and you have a handgun license, that doesn't apply to you. Secondly, it also doesn't apply if you're on private property not associated with a school. So if you're on private property and you're within that 1,000 feet, then that doesn't apply to you either. That's for the federal statute. As far in churches with a daycare would not fall within the federal statute anyway. So what churches with daycares may fall within is the state statute that says you can't have a gun on school property, and that includes any property co-owned with a school or on the same property with a school. And so for years, the law was if a church had a school even on the same grounds or in the same building with if they had a school on the same grounds or in the same building with the church, and that includes a state licensed daycare, then that church was school property. But the 1,000-foot part doesn't apply to the state statute. It's only the property itself. So being within 1,000 feet of a church with a school or a daycare on the same property doesn't cause you any problems under the state statute. And I've learned this over the years. A lot of the preschools or daycares that are located in churches are not licensed by the state. There's a different procedure whereby churches can get authorized to run preschools or daycares that are not licensed daycares. And if they're not state licensed daycares, then they're not schools. Anyway, by the way, just so people know listening to this, even if there's a school on the same grounds as your church, you can attend. And this is a change we made in 2019, and I fought like hell for this. It was a bill originally introduced by Representative Ben Smaltz. And before that, it was introduced by Senator Jack Sandlin, who I considered a good friend who we just lost here recently in the last few weeks. But Senator Jack Sandlin introduced this some number of years ago. Representative Ben Smaltz carried it forward, and that is, even if there's a school on the same property or in the same building with your church, or a state licensed daycare, and most of them are not licensed by the state, by the way, but that is in churches. But even if there's a school or a daycare on the same property, that if you're attending a worship service or a religious ceremony in that house of worship, even though it's legally school property, because there's a church on the same, because there's a school on the same property or in the same building, then you can attend that worship service or religious ceremony, and that's totally legal, and that's a change we made in 2019. So if you're curious about how it works with churches, as far as the Indiana statute, now again, as far as the federal statute that talks about 1,000 feet and all of that, big exception if you're licensed by the state in which the school is located. So that's another reason I mentioned at the top of the show. A lot of people are continuing to get their handgun licenses, even though we went to constitutional carry. Well, the Federal Gun-Free School Zones Act is a big reason why we did that. A big reason why people do that is what I should be saying, because the people want to have their licenses because you fall within that exception under the Federal Gun-Free School Zones Act. Whether you're on the property or within 1,000 feet, if you're licensed by the state in which the school is located to carry a firearm, you don't violate the federal act. So you can also attend a worship service or a religious ceremony in that house of worship, even though it's school property, because there's a school on the same grounds or in the same building. Under state statute that we amended in 2019, you can also do that legally as well. So I hope that's clear. And I've talked about that a lot here over the years. Right now, we're at the bottom of the hour. We're taking a break. We'll be right back. We'll be back to talk about Senator Kadura's proposed bill that would really gut the Indiana Firearms Preemption Act, why it's a silly notion, and why I'll be very, very vocal in opposing it once it gets filed in the General Assembly. We'll continue to take your calls. If you don't mind, I'd like to continue talking about the Preemption Act, and specifically this local regulation proposed in Indianapolis and how we would see that spread to many, many other communities across Indiana if this bill proposed by an Indianapolis state senator were to be passed, which I do not foresee happening. But we'd like to limit the calls to that discussion. Again, give us a call, 317-239-9393. We'll be right back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
The leaves have fallen, the air is crisp, and IU basketball is back with big shoes to fill. Good thing Mike Woodson has reloaded.
Fires up a three and hits!
With the return of Xavier Johnson, Malik Renew, and exciting freshman Mackenzie Mbako, IU takes on UConn in the Empire Classic tomorrow. John Herrick has the pregame at noon. Don Fisher with the tip-off at 1 on your home for IU basketball, 93 WIBC.
PA Jewelers is your must-shop store for Black Friday and Small Business Saturday. PA Jewelers already has fine jewelry and gemstones discounted 70% below the box stores. Now, on Black Friday and Small Business Saturday, you get 10% off everything PA Jewelers sells. Estate jewelry, watches, and jewelry from local artists. Visit PA Jewelers inside Premier Arms, 3754 South Green Street in Brownsburg, 317-858-3030, or online at premierarms.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. The craziest thing was believing that your dad knew everything. So as a dad, you felt like you had to know everything. You had to get everything right. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then, it kind of starts to work itself out. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
This hour on 93 WIBC, powered by Family Heating and Air, your American Standard air dealer in Indianapolis.
Fox News, I'm Ann Carrick. Israel is exchanging fire with Hezbollah on the northern border with Lebanon while continuing to take fire from Hamas and push further into Gaza.
They're trying to use their air force and also artillery units along the border to support those infantry troops that say they are now operating in the Zitoun area of Gaza, an indication that they are going from the Mediterranean Sea on the western side and pushing eastward. They released a new number saying 57 Israeli troops have been killed since the ground operation began.
Fox's Trey Yingst reporting from southern Israel. Another major drone attack on Ukraine is causing power outages and taking aim at infrastructure facilities. Ukraine air defenses say they took out 29 of 38 Iranian-made drones launched from Russian territory. Officials are urging citizens to prepare for more power outages and more attacks from Russia. America's listening to Fox News.
Where do you feel the pain, guys? Look, sometimes you're getting older, you feel it in the knees or the hips, the shoulder, the back, but you don't have to let it sideline you. And if it is, talk to the professionals at QC Kinetics. Tony Katz here, and QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, restoring and repairing damaged joint tissue. Surgery is not your only option. Take a breath, take a beat, and talk to QC Kinetics first. With demand so strong, QC Kinetics has added Saturday appointments right here in the Indianapolis area. Do you have arthritic pain or pain from an injury? Call QC Kinetics. Don't just live with it. That's crazy. No drugs, no downtime, no surgery. Call QC Kinetics for a free consultation. QC Kinetics. It's in Eagle Creek, in Greenwood, and now in Carmel, with those Saturday hours at all three locations. Call 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN. QC Kinetics. Eagle Creek, Greenwood, and now in Carmel. 317-559-PAIN.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So when this bill gets introduced in the General Assembly, what are the arguments for and against it? I've talked a little bit about why it's a ridiculous idea. I'm going to talk more about that in here in just a minute. But what are the arguments for it? And Senator Kadura on Fox 59 last night, same story that I was interviewed for. And I've posted the Fox 59, at least the version they put on their internet, which was really condensed versus what they originally aired. I saw it air at 6 o'clock, and it was quite a bit longer. They had me on for three different little segments. And what they posted on the website was much more abbreviated, and I'm just on there really just a few seconds. But so be it. That's par for the course with local news. But when he was on Fox 59, that is Senator Kadura, who's proposing this thing, he was saying, well, listen, the General Assembly won't pass gun control that we keep proposing, things like an assault weapon ban. And so we need them to stop complaining about gun violence and let local governments go forward and take control of this issue and try to help, because we have this huge problem with gun violence, and we have to do something. That's what you always hear. We have to do something. We need to institute these common sense measures. There's very little discussion of whether they're constitutional, first and foremost, like an assault weapon ban. Hey, let's even talk about raising the age to buy any gun until you're 21. There's already been a challenge to the federal statute that says you can't buy a handgun until you're 21. And why? Because if you're 18, 19, or 20, you can go into the military. You're fully eligible for military service. You can go into the military, and you can drive a tank or run an artillery unit or fly a drone with Hellfire missiles. And I don't know if you're in the military and you're listening to this going, no, Guy, you can't fly a drone, and there's some other limitation on that. Okay, you can certainly carry an M4 select fire rifle, standard issue rifle in the military when you're 18 years old. So if you can carry a machine gun in the military and you can put your life on the line to defend this country, and then come home and you can't go in a gun store and buy a gun, how is that protecting your right to keep and bear arms? How is that consistent with your constitutionally protected right to keep and bear arms? And at least one court across the country has said the handgun ban as to 18 to 21 or 18 to 20-year-olds not being able to buy a handgun in a gun store under federal law, that's unconstitutional. One argument against saying, well, no, that's just handguns. One argument against saying it's unconstitutional is saying, well, they can still buy shotguns and rifles, so their right to bear arms isn't really being infringed. It's just right to have a handgun. Well, in the Heller decision, I've already mentioned on this show, Supreme Court said handguns and the possession of handguns, the carrying of handguns, is specifically protected by the Second Amendment. So that doesn't really fly. But now in Indiana, according to Senator Kadura, we want to eliminate the constitutional rights of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds to keep and bear arms because they can't buy a gun. Does that make sense to you? Does that sound constitutional to you? And the argument back is, well, we have all these problems with young people. People say, oh, your brain's not fully developed until you're 25. And so the young people are committing some of these mass shootings, and so we need to restrict their rights. You know what? We need to do much better at crisis intervention. We need to start identifying these at-risk people. We have people that are seriously mentally ill. We have people, including these mass shooters, where they're on the radar of law enforcement. They've been reported multiple times. Law enforcement's been to their house the Parkland, Florida shooter. Police have been to his foster parents' home dozens of times. He'd posted on social media that he wanted to be a school shooter. And people say, oh, look, an 18-year-old committed a mass shooting, so we need to restrict the rights of all 18-year-olds? No, that's not the way the Constitution works. You need to do a better job of identifying these at-risk people and getting them the help they need, separating them from their firearm. especially where they've committed crimes. But you don't restrict the right of every other 18, 19, and 20-year-old. No, that's not the way the Constitution works. So you have huge constitutional issues. But then the argument back again is, well, but Guy, here locally, we have teens that are carrying guns and committing crimes, and we have gang members that are doing all of this. And committing violent acts here, and so we need to restrict young people's right to carry guns. Or that's even why we need an assault weapon ban, or we need to do away with concealed carry completely in the city of Indianapolis. That's the rationale for Mayor Hoggs' ordinance. It's passed. I keep calling one to call it a proposed ordinance. It's on the books. It's just not effective unless and until we amend the Preemption Act. Well, here's where that completely falls apart. And the Fox 59 reporter that came and did the interview in my office yesterday had Hannah Adamson, and I think I like her. She's very businesslike. She's very professional. But I kept asking her. I said, go back to Senator Kadura or anybody else proposing what's being proposed here and get an answer to this question. And don't take a, well, we just need to do something as an answer. Get a specific answer to this question. And the question is, what logical thinking person believes that a criminal who's intent on committing a violent criminal act, like murder or rape or armed robbery, where depending on the particular crime can get decades in prison or life in prison, or for certain murders, the death penalty. What makes you think that that hardened criminal, that violent criminal who you're trying to deter, you say, well, we need to do something because we have all this violent crime in Marion County. So we need these common sense measures that will reduce gun violence. That's the argument. Okay, what rational thinking person believes that that violent criminal who's not afraid of decades in prison, not afraid of dying in a shootout with police, that the psychopath whose plan is to kill as many people in a mass shooting as possible and then die in a shootout with police or eat his own bullet, as we continue to see with these mass shooters, or the dangerously psychotic person who doesn't fear dying, he's not rational enough to do so. He's crazy. He's a psychotic. How many of these people that you're trying to reach, these violent criminals that are committing all these crimes in Marion County, who believes that if they're not afraid of decades in prison or dying in a shootout with police or the death penalty, that same person is going to be dissuaded from committing their violent crime because the city of Indianapolis is going to fine them? Yeah, that's right. That's all the city of Indianapolis can do. They can't put people in jail. All they can do is pass an ordinance. And the only penalty for an ordinance violation is to get fined. In Marion County, the maximum fine for a first-time offense is $2,500. So I'm a drug dealer. Let's talk about something very common. Mass shootings, as horrible as they are still relatively rare. They're far too common, don't get me wrong. But as far as your likelihood to be caught up in a mass shooting, that's very, very remote. There are people in Greenwood right now saying, oh, yeah, well, I was at the mall on July 17th of 2022, and it didn't feel remote then. That's right. And, oh, by the way, a law-abiding citizen who was my client, Eli Dickin, stepped in and saved countless lives. But again, that's a relatively rare occurrence. Let's talk about the everyday street crimes. Every time you listen to WIBC News, 3 people shot last night, 4 people shot last night. We're well over 200 murders in Indianapolis. All right, let's talk about that street crime. There's a violent, let's pick somebody, a drug dealer. This guy's been in and out of prison several times, got multiple felonies. He already can't possess a firearm because he's got felony convictions. And he's on his way to murder his rival drug dealer. We know this happens all the time. Look at where the drug activity happens in Marion County, and then look at where the murders happen. It's the same hotspots. So this violent felon drug dealer has decided he's going to murder his rival drug dealer, who's starting to walk in on his territory. And he's not afraid of getting killed by this dude who he's going to attack. He's not afraid of going to prison for decades. But on the way out the door, he's going to say, hold on, I can't carry my concealed firearm, or I can't take my gun because I don't have a license, or I can't take my AK-47 that I already own illegally because I'm a felon and I can't possess a firearm. No, I can't do any of those things because Joe Hogsett and Fadi Kadura have worked together to make it so the city of Indianapolis can fine me if I take my gun to commit this crime. So let's boil that down. Who believes that someone who's not afraid of decades in prison would be afraid of a fine? That's a short version. And when I went to the reporter last night, I said, get an answer to that. They said, well, they say they have to do something. That's not an answer to my question. The something they're proposing makes no damn sense. And here's why it makes no damn sense. It makes no sense because violent criminals aren't going to care about a fine. Who does care about a fine? You do. I do. Law-abiding citizens. I care about $2,500. I could buy a really nice AR for $2,500. That's more than my mortgage payment. I care about $2,500. You care about $2,500. Law-abiding citizens are going to be affected by that fine. So we're not going to carry our concealed firearm or whatever it is that Joe Hogsett says we can't do through this ordinance. So law-abiding citizens are going to be affected, and the criminals don't give a damn. That's why this is preposterous. I've well past the 3/4 hour. It's time to take a break. We'll be back to wrap up this version of the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
A turkey call competition.
This is something all three of us, including Allison, are going to do right now. I'll go first.
All right, here's mine. Allison. Yeah!
I'll take the W on
Dude,
that.
you set the bar.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Pinnacle Firearms. Stop by 598 West Carmel Drive. That's just off Carmel Drive on Clark Street. Check out my buddies at Pinnacle Firearms. It's all your needs relating to firearms, accessories, or ammunition. Gunsmithing, they've got a full-time gunsmith right there on the premises. And refinishing. I've had a shotgun refinish there that's absolutely beautiful. They can do all of that and much more. Check out my friends at 598 West Carmel Drive in Carmel or online at pinnacle-firearms.com.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Fall in Indy, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Edwina did. She called Rhino Shield.
Over the years, I've had to touch up the house. I just got to the point where I couldn't spend any more money on the outside of the house. And when I saw Rhino Shield, I thought that was the answer to my problem.
And Rhino Shield's a ceramic coating, better than paint.
I've had painters here before, and it was usually quite a disaster with them leaving their equipment here. But Rhino Shield was right on it.
Our 25% off special is now extended through December. Plus, receive a free game console just by having Rhino Shield applied by spring of 2024.
The gentleman said, if you're interested, give me a call. And I said, honestly, can you come tomorrow?
Remember, you have until the end of December to receive 25% off. Plus, get your job done by spring of 2024 and receive a free game console. Restrictions apply. Here's owner Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
You want to sell your home? You want to buy a new home? Hire the agent who is an expert on maximizing your home price fast. His name is Mark Deedle. Jim and Emily in Shelbyville. They were ready for some more space and an upgrade for their family. They heard about Mark Deedle. They were impressed by his aggressive marketing plan. Home sold in 2 days for cash at asking price. Plus, Mark also found a new and bigger, better home for Jim and Emily. And he arranged so that they could stay in their old home until move-in day. That's the kind of service you get from Mark Deedle.
Mark Deedle is the only real estate expert that we trust and recommend with the sale of our homes. Mark Deedle guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. What are you waiting for? Call Mark Deedle today, 317-755-4232, or go to markdeedle.com. Mark D-I-E-T-E-L, markdeedle.com. Tell him Hammer and Nigel sent you.
AE Ammo is Greenwood's ammunition superstore. The largest variety in training, hunting, and self-defense ammo with the best prices locally guaranteed. Factory new 9mm FMJ ammo starting at $12 per 50-round box. Factory new 50-round boxes, $380 from $14.99 and 45 ACP from $18.99. And with the AE Ammo Customer Rewards Program, start earning points today towards money back to use on future purchases. Shop in-store or online at aeammo.com.
We have the best technicians in the business here at Family. They'll take care of you every time. 317-577-8077.
Family Heating and Air, your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council. The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
The latest local news, commentary from Tony Katz, Kendall and Casey, Hammer and Nigel, podcasts. Listen to the station live, whenever, wherever, online at WIBC.com. The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for what is going to be a very short segment here to wrap up this edition of the Gun Guy Show. By the way, we've got a couple of people on hold on the phone lines. I apologize. It doesn't look like we're going to have time. We've got a grand total of about a minute for this segment, so I apologize. Give us a call next week, and we'll be glad to get to you, but I'm not going to be able to go to the phone lines right now. So where does this leave us? First of all, a couple of people, when I posted about this proposed statute, this bill that Senator Fadi Kadura is going to introduce. A lot of people came on and said, this doesn't have any chance in hell of passing, does it? And the answer to that, I think, is no. Specifically, I don't think it's going to get a hearing. If it gets filed in the Senate, it's very likely, and it will get filed in the Senate because Senator Kadura is a senator, so he's going to file it in the Senate. By any estimation, it's going to get filed in the Courts and Criminal Code Committee. And we've got one of the strongest advocates for gun rights chairing that committee. Right now, we're wrapping up this version of the Gun Guy Show. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope you come back next week.
Around here, it's a little less about